Hi everyone, this is Kathy Skipper and this is day 3 of Healing Sugar Addiction Journey, or my Healing Sugar Addiction Journey. Last night I did a video at 9:30 at night. I didn't feel very coherent, I was really tired, and so I'm doing it this morning so I've got my brain's working better and I can actually share the things that I think are worthwhile sharing without rambling too much, hopefully. So the first thing I wanted to look at this morning was, actually I realized yesterday something that I believe actually got me to this point where I'm making this commitment to myself. And I wanted to share a little bit about a homeopathic remedy called humanum. In our mentorship that we do with Aromanosis, there was a group of 20 very powerful women, and we were working together for 6 months. And one of those women is a brilliant homeopath from New Jersey or New York, and a good friend. And she mentioned humanum as a homeopathic remedy, and it's a remedy that comes from mother's milk. And straight away, I felt it in my cells. It resonated with me. And so I looked into this remedy and I decided to take it. And as those of you who've seen the first video the day before yesterday, I talked about being formula fed evaporated milk. So on that level, it made sense, this remedy. But on an even deeper level, what I felt this humanum remedy did was reconnects us to the mother line. So through the breast milk of a mother, we don't just get the milk, we get the energy, and we get the energy that comes normally in a healthy lineage all the way through the mother line, from the earth, through all the mothers to the baby. And so this accumulated wisdom and embodied wisdom, visceral, as I said before, the feminine doesn't think, it feels, it's visceral, it's embodied, ideally comes through to the baby. In our society, that, there's my phone, sorry. Oh, let me just get rid of it, decline. In our society, that has been hijacked in many different ways over generations. And even women who do breastfeed their baby with the best intention, if that channel that comes through the earth, through the mother line for thousands of generations isn't clear, or there's unintegrated trauma from past 3-4 generations, then that will have an effect on the energy coming through to the baby. And then again, there are all the babies that don't get breastfed. So we actually worked on this remedy in the mentorship, and Rachel shared with us that it's considered in the homeopathic world as one of the major remedies for humanity. Anyway, I took it, I gave it to all of my children because they had suffered from a crazy mother when I was young, and I had my first children. I was in my early 20s, and I was definitely suffering from the unintegrated and unknown traumas from my mother line and passing them on to my children. So I gave all my children this remedy. I took the remedy, and I felt it was like this missing piece of the work I had been doing in reconnecting to the mother line. It felt viscerally very, very powerful, as if I was putting the electric socket back into the electric system, and the energy was flowing again. And I do believe that the result of that has got me to the point where the incoherences in my life, such as my need for chocolate, red wine, etc., the sugar thing, have come up to be revealed, and these incoherences are just too much now because I'm getting healthier. So that was the first thing I wanted to share. Second thing I wanted to share was last night in bed, I was thinking, God, I rambled. I want to be coherent. I know I'm using this platform to hold myself accountable, but I also want to be coherent and share things that are going to be useful to people. I don't want to just ramble and have no structure to what I'm saying. And then I asked myself, well, what would I do if I was a client of my own? If I was someone who'd come to me and wanted to go on a journey of self-change in a specific route. So mine, as we know, is sugar addiction. So I thought about this, and I thought, well, the first thing I would ask the person to do is to be very clear about their intentions and their motives. In any journey, anything we're trying to do, a physical journey and in a journey of change and transformation, we need to be very clear of where we want to get to in order to get there. So I thought, wow, I haven't even done that. So, sometimes we're not the best we're not the best practitioners for ourselves. So I'm forcing myself to swap the roles around and be my own patient, so to speak. So what I did this morning is I worked on my intentions and my motivations for this journey, and I wanted to share them with you, so that again I could be held accountable, and secondly they might be helpful for other people, or just give you an idea of how I set my intentions, and so you can set intentions for your own journeys. Oh yes, before I begin, I also decided, in order to do this and to have some support doing this, I would get back to the galbanum. And as I said in the first video, galbanum is really good when we want to realize our true path, when we want to be reminded that we've decided something and there's a path towards getting to that result. So one thing about galbanum is that it highlights your excuses. So we all have excuses. Oh, it's not the time, or well, that's happening, so I can't do it now, or I'm not strong enough, or whatever it is. We all have excuses, and galbanum really highlights them and won't let you get away with them. In the same way as it sort of highlights excuses, it also gives an oomph. It combats inertia. So those moments where I just can't be bothered, just drop back down into the same old stuff. It's no good, it's no use, I'll never make it. Galbanum can be very useful for that. Committing to the path, as we always say. And own and integrate what comes up. What comes up for me, I did mention a little bit yesterday that I started to feel that the inner child was going to be part of this journey. Well, that's my story. Each of us has our stories, and galbanum helps us to own them, to see, hey, yeah, this is part of my journey, and to integrate them. How am I going to work with this so that it becomes an integrated part of myself, rather than something that's in the unconscious that I haven't fully looked at, that I haven't really owned, and that's going to have more power over me. The minute we start to work with it, look at it, see it for what it is, expose things, then they have less power over us, have more power when they stay in the shadow. But that's something that's going to come up a lot in this work as we go on, because the unconscious and the shadow work is at the heart of addiction work. And it also, the galbanum helps us to let go of old, outdated habits and ways. So that's what I'm really trying to do. I'm trying to stop those reflexes of going for the chocolate, going for the red wine, going for putting honey in my yogurt, whatever it is. So I was using galbanum, and I decided to be very clear about, first of all, my intention. Where do I want to go? Where do I want to end up on this journey? So my intention for the long haul is to eradicate all forms of added sugar, so from my diet, and alcohol. And I hesitated as I'm there saying, well, maybe red wine is what I drink in the evenings, not every evening, but if there's a bottle of red wine, I'm very excited and I'll have a drink in the evening. And sometimes even I'll pour a little bit when I'm cooking, because I really like nibbling on what I'm cooking and having that sugary, sweet balance with the savory that I'm cooking. It's sort of a sweet and sour desire. And it really is about taste, because I don't like the effect of alcohol. I don't like the effect of cannabis. I don't like the effect mind-altering things unless it's psychedelics for a specific healing reason. So when I was saying to myself, yes, so my intention is that I, for the rest of my life, want to eradicate added sugar from my diet, and alcohol. Is then like, oh, well, what about whiskey? There's no sugar in whiskey. It's all turned to alcohol. And so there I see my little self-sabotaging, well, how can I let a little bit of alcohol in so I can still be part of the party? And I had to really sort of work on that and say, no, this is what I need to do. I know that I need to say it's for the rest of my life, even though that sounds very extreme, because my experience of addiction in my own life with nicotine, with sugar, and with other substances is that I'm an all or nothing type of a person. I can't say, okay, well, I'll have a little bit. And I've done it hundreds of times. Okay, I've been off sugar for a couple of months. I'll have just that little bit of cake. And somehow in my mind, I can't stick at that one little bit of cake. It's like, oh, well, the door's open and now I'm eating sugar again. Or if I smoked 30 years ago, but the journey of stopping smoking was a long one, and I stopped many times. And maybe not 30 years ago, actually stopped in my late 30s. So if I let myself smoke a cigarette or nicotine at some point after having stopped for a year, the door was open and I'm back to smoking. So I know that about me. So this has to be sort of, and I don't, as I said, I'm not working through willpower, but I am making intentions. That is my intention. Whether I make it or not, that's my journey, and I'll share it with you. But I have to have a clear intention. So that's the intention. The other intention is that I intend not to substitute sugar for sweeteners, artificial sweeteners. Such as, I think there are 5 FDA-approved artificial sweeteners: saccharin, I can't say the names, acesulfame, aspartame, neoterm, and sucralose. Well, I choose not to use these artificial sweeteners for several reasons, and the main one being I want to train my taste buds. I don't want to just replace one sugar taste with a substitute sugar taste, because that's going to be more of a slippery slope to falling back into sugar at some point, because I'm still being reliant on the flavour of sugar or added sugar. So I don't want to do that. And I also want to be very careful about sugar substitutes such as stevia, monk's fruit. There are a whole load of sugar. There's a coconut sugar substitute, because again, what I want to do is clear myself, all of myself, my being, from the need for the taste of sugar, because I think that's a big key to it. It's that taste that was given in the bottle when I was a baby. It's that nurturing, that nourishment, that sweetness that is replacing something else. And I want to find that something that needs that sugar and look after it and give it what it needs on another level. So I don't want to be substituting the flavour. And that's another reason why I'm also intending not to eat dried fruits at this moment anyway. I don't know further along the line, once I'm healed from this thing, whether that would be something that occasionally could be in my diet. But at the moment I feel that dried fruits, I really like dried mango, and that type of thing will very easily become a sugar substitute, and I could be sucking on it, eating it at any moment when I really wanted sugar. And there's a lot of sugar in dried fruits, it's concentrated. So that's another one of my intentions, is to avoid those. I will allow myself a reasonable fruit consumption, and I've noticed I've probably eaten 1 piece of fruit a day, maybe 2. And yesterday I did say that when I had some watermelon in with my starter at the restaurant, and I could really taste the natural sugars already. So, and as fruit are high in fibre, they're nutritious, nutrient dense, then I don't think that's a bad thing, as long as I'm careful that I'm not just replacing and eating them solidly all day, which I haven't been doing, but I'm only on day 3. So let's see. So those are my intentions. That's where I want to get to. I want to be living my life sugar-free and alcohol-free. That's the hardest one as well, because I think, with the alcohol, yes, alcohol in my life is a sugar, it's a way of getting sugar, but there's also other aspects to alcohol. Even though I don't consider myself someone who will drink enough to get drunk, and I usually only, if I have a glass, it'll be a glass of wine, but there's still that sort of, before you start to really feel the effects, there is a sort of pre-effect, and I suppose, and also a social aspect to alcohol that I suppose I'm gonna have to deal with. So they're my intentions. My motivations, why I'm doing this. So the intentions are where I'm going. My motivations are why I'm doing this, and I'm doing this I'm doing this for my physical health, my emotional health, my mental health, and my spiritual health. So I'm doing this for the whole of my being, for all of my psyche, because I realized sugar was getting me down on all levels. It was touching me on all levels, not just the physical health level. But let's start there. On a physical level, I know I had cancer 5 years ago, and sugar feeds cancers. It's not good for cancer. I'm cancer free, but I don't want to do things in my life that could trigger cancer again. I don't want to play around with my blood sugar levels and my insulin levels by having this yo-yo day. Sometimes, what I realize? Sometimes, I don't drink diet sodas. I don't eat loads of I eat chocolate if it's there, or, always something sweet, but it's usually quite healthy. We have a healthy diet. But I noticed there could be some days when everything I ate had sugar in it. And that was frightening. Like, I've had a whole day and I've just been having sugar. So I've been going like this all day, zigzagging up with my sugar high, down, so I have to have some more. And I know that's bad for my health and could trigger many physical difficulties. So I really don't want to be doing that, and doing that to myself now. I'm 55. And you know, something that really hit me was, come on, I'm 55. I'm a good practitioner. I work with lots of people. I know what I'm doing. I'm really good at helping people. But I can't help myself. I'm 55 and I'm still struggling with this stupid thing. You know, it's now or never. And I did feel that if I got to the end of my life and I still hadn't found that place within where I'd liberated myself from this, I'd feel really pissed with myself, or I would have regret. So that's another one of my motivations. And I'm also very aware of the inflammatory reaction that sugar and alcohol stimulate, and you know, that is not good for an aging body. So those are some physical motivations for me, wanting to keep my body healthy and balanced, and to feel better in my body, and to have more energy, and also I want to avoid going back to sugar. So my motivation is to cleanse myself from sugar and be free of it. Lastly, on the physical level, is the hypothyroid TSA levels that I've recently been tested with, and so, you know, I'm pretty sure that it's autoimmune, and I'm pretty sure that in a way being able to liberate from these habits is going to liberate something in myself that is sort of self-destructive, and as we go along this journey, I'm going to be looking at that on a deeper level, on an emotional level, the underlying causes for all this. So secondly, I want another one of my motivations is for my emotional health, and I didn't say in the video last night that I realized there's some inner child work that is going to be major in this. I'm wary of it. It's sort of, I clam up a little bit when I go to my body worker and she's starting to ask, you know, she's a really great energetic body worker, and she starts to ask me about these deeper things, and the inner child sort of there, but she kind of clams up. She's scared. So for my emotional health, I want to work on the deep underlying issues, and I'm also sick of punishing myself before I'm punished, which I think is to do with this sugar thing as well, doing things I don't want to do to myself. And part of this punishing myself before I'm punished, which is this sort of self-flagellating, is about exposing who is really the person doing the punishing, who I've internalized. So there's some inner work there that will probably be related to intergenerational work as well. And on an emotional level, the question that I want to work with is, how can I nourish myself on an emotional level in healthy ways, instead of looking for this external metaphor of sweetness and nourishment and nurturing and gentleness? How can I find that within myself and give it to myself in other ways? Then for my mental health, I'm actually sick of obsessing about sugar. You know, isn't it ridiculous when you keep doing something and you hate yourself for it? And you do it, and then you say, well, this is it forever, and then you do it again, and so you beat yourself up. I'm really sick of that pattern, that obsessing about sugar, and then beating myself up because I can't control it. And so mentally, that reinforces a lot of negative self ideas and self-talk. So yes, spiritually, on a spiritual level, I want to get balance back into my life. And, you know, I said in the first video, this is the first addiction in my life that came from birth, and it's the last addiction. And I believe sugar is probably the hardest addiction. Very similar to things like cocaine. It works on the same receptors and the same feelings, the same good feelings of, you know, dopamine. So on a spiritual level, I want to be able to free myself from what I see as a self-inflicted and society-inflicted disease, which, as I said, reinforces a lack of self-worth. And I think, you know, on a spiritual level, this will also be intergenerational, because I believe that the mother line trauma where my great-grandmother was taken away from her mother, who was from a tribe in northeast India, and her father, who was white, had died. She was taken into an orphanage. From that point, the mother line was cut, and something else was she had to latch on to something else, and in this case the orphanage was run by religious people, and it was religion. So I think this is something that's been passed, this sense of lack of self-worth, or an inability to connect with the mother line, inability to connect to the nurturance of what the mother symbolizes, is the deep part of this wound, which I'm going to be working on. So that's it. Those are my motivations, my intentions, and just actually as my train of thought. So the deep things that I'm working on, this reconnecting with the symbolism of the mother, with the energy of the mother, and I mean ultimately the great mother, gets me back to the beginning of this conversation, and that's where I think the lac humanum really helped, and to bring me to this point where I'm willing to stand up and hold myself accountable and work on this. So there we go. That's day 3. It's the morning. And I feel a lot brighter than I do in the evening. So I'll be back tomorrow and let you know how things are getting on, and maybe look a little bit at how the shadow work can help with this tomorrow. Okay, thanks. Bye.